Hey there folks, welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art and culture, and this is Billboard Breakdown. You know, I can predict a lot of people will be celebrating a lot of parts of this week's Hot 100. Not all of it, obviously. There's too much Rae Sremmurd to get away with anything really jubilant. But I can see a lot of people seeing the new number one, a couple of the new arrivals, and getting really excited. And that only further defines the difference between music nerds who follow the charts like myself and the mainstream population. Because when I look at the charts this week, I can only wish I was excited as everybody else, because it really wasn't that great. Case in point, our top 10. Now, for the past few weeks, I predicted that The Hills by The Weeknd would eventually take that number one spot. Frankly, I didn't expect it to happen so fast. I also wish I could look at the song and not see a pale imitation of material that The Weeknd already did on Thursday in Echoes of Silence, but that's an issue for 3 months from now, not now. But going back to chart position, the odd stats seem to support my hypothesis. I mean, sure, big airplay gains and had a real presence on streaming and sales, but it actually slipped on YouTube. It really only has a narrow lead in the margins over Justin Bieber's What Do You Mean, which tops sales, streaming, and nearly holds YouTube. It's just behind on airplay at this point, but it's getting pretty fast. It could retake the top spot pretty soon. Both these are enough to shove back Can't Feel My Face by The Weeknd off the top to number 3. It'll be interesting to see how long it lasts there. I mean, sure, it's got strong streaming and decent sales, but airplay is finally declining. It hasn't quite tipped over into freefall, but that might just be a matter of time. What somehow has stuck around even longer than it ever should have was Watch Me by Silento, which somehow gained on YouTube and held mostly steady in sales to compensate for streaming nearly completely dying off, and it never really had much airplay to begin with. Fortunately, it's got a challenger from Good For You by Selena Gomez and A$AP Rocky at number 5, which rose to new peak thanks to YouTube resurgence, okay sales, and strong but slowing airplay. I just hope the momentum lasts. It's a good song. But it's got competition too from another good song, Locked Away by Rock City featuring Adam Levine, rising up to number 6, which has been picking up tons of airplay and streaming with solid sales and shows no sign of really slowing down. Hell, even 679 by Fetty Wap and Monty picked up to number 7, compensating for losses in streaming thanks to decent sales and modest airplay gains. All this was enough to push Cheerleader by Omi down to number 8, but then again, that might have happened anyways. Losses again across the board, but probably the most strength in radio inertia and maybe a bit of sales. Then comes our newest arrival, the top 10 at number 9, and one that continues to irk me considerably, Hotline Bling by Drake. It's here because of huge streaming and considerable sales that airplay's struggling to catch up, and yet I can't help but look at it as a measurable drop-off in quality from Drake's better R&B tracks from, say, 2013. But then again, if we're looking for a phrase to describe Drake's album and mixtape output this year thus far, it would be drop-off in quality. And finally, we've got Lean On by Major Lazer, DJ Snake, and Mia, clinging a top 10 thanks to YouTube dominance, solid streaming, and airplay inertia. But it's got no sales, and in my opinion, it will probably be gone soon. And on that note, our losers and dropouts. Barely any worth mentioning in the latter category this week, the biggest probably being Beautiful Now by Zedd with John Belian, but I literally keep forgetting that song exists until I'm reminded by you guys, so I'm not entirely surprised it's gone. Now with the losers, there's a bit more I didn't expect, namely how it seems like country radio seems to clear the boards entirely when songs hit that last quarter of their chart run. House Party by Sam Hunt dropping hard to 44, Crash and Burn by Thomas Rhett hitting 53, Hell of a Night by Dustin Lynch dropping to 80. Yeah, I'm not exactly complaining about some of these, especially Thomas Rhett, but at this point I can almost predict when country radio would just pitch a song out the window. As for the rest, Prisoner by Lana Del Rey and The Weeknd fell to 96, although I suspect Synergy from Lana's new album will probably give it a boost next week, joy. And Should Have Been Us by Tori Kelly plummeted even harder to 91. And finally, the one drop that actually surprised me, She's Kinda Hot by 5 Seconds of Summer. Is there literally no more market for pop rock in the Blink-182 mold anymore? I know the summer's over, but I honestly thought this song would last a little bit longer because it's actually pretty good. And you know, we had even a shorter list of gains this week. First, the bad news. Gonna Want It Tonight by Chase Rice seems like it's getting the radio push because it went up to 76. Even worse, White Iverson by Post Malone somehow got a boost to 71. Okay, seriously guys, we've had enough bad viral novelties this year. Please don't make this another one. I'm literally running out of space on my worst of the year list. Fortunately, to compensate, we got the unexpected surge of X's and O's by Elle King surging up to 34. Well, it's because it's actually picking up a little bit on the radio. It might be too little or too late to make the year-end list, but it's still nice to see it finally getting some traction because it's a pretty damn good song. And on that note, well, we might as well talk about that one returning entry now, shall we?
I keep you safe, I keep you dry. Don't be afraid, Cecilia, I'm the satellite, and you're the sky.
And here's our second example of why I can imagine mainstream public might embrace this track, but I'm considerably more underwhelmed. Mostly because this feels so much like the folk-inspired indie pop rock that fills up Canadian radio, but doesn't really cross over to the same extent south of the border. I'm not going to deny that the piano anchors a pretty solid melody, but the lyrics are bog standard love song material from the indie scene that really make less sense the more you think about them. The song feels oddly weightless to me, especially with all the effects just piled onto the vocals. I'm not going to say this track is bad, it really isn't, but I'm not going to say it's all that interesting either. Just saying. And on that cheery note, let's dive straight into our new arrivals, starting with number 100, Come Get Her by Rae Sremmurd.
Somebody come tip her, she's dancing like a stripper. Somebody come get her, she's feeling all the liquor. You got girls in here, I'm recruiting, and they fine. Hop the line.
You know, I've been asking since the beginning of this year when I covered their atrocity of a debut album what the appeal of Rae Sremmurd is. And with the release of their newest single, we've gotten close to hitting the very lowest point. I can start with the oily cascades of backing vocals with a bass-heavy beat as Rae Sremmurd taunts a guy because his girl is supposedly dancing like a stripper for them, and then judging by the content of Rae Sremmurd's bars that barely even approach being on key with their singing, I have a hard time buying any of it. And normally I'd be inclined to pitch this in the same pile of shameless mediocrity that most of this brand of new crunk belongs, but as usual, Rae Sremmurd tips it into straight garbage thanks to the third verse, where the girl they lured over start asking questions, and they effectively tell her to shut up and keep on shaking her ass. So, okay, for guys, it's basically Rae Sremmurd taunting them for stealing their girls, and for girls, this is Rae Sremmurd saying that they have no interest in anything beyond your butt. And people like this? Ugh, can we just ignore this nonsense and hope to God that Rae Sremmurd just goes away? Number 97, Hideaway by Daya. You know, I'll admit right out of the gate, the odds are kind of stacked against you if you're a child star. If you're under the wing of celebrity or Disney, you've often been so polished you lose any sort of unique personality. But if you're not, the inexperience can definitely shine through. What I found interesting is that with the rise of YouTube, we're getting younger and younger artists who display a fair amount of professional savvy and experience, and who can circumvent the typical marketing machine to land on the radio. Hence, we have Daya, 16 years old, with this being the lead-off single for her new EP. Initially, I actually kind of liked her vocal poise and the presence with respect to the muted keys that were supplemented by more of a rougher, buzzing edge for the chorus, but then you delve into the lyrics. Initially, I was reminded a little bit of Here by Alessia Cara, but at least her antisocial sniping at the party atmosphere felt earned and well articulated. Here, Daya goes at bad girls who go for guys who don't appreciate them, and guys who go for easy girls instead of putting in the work to supply Daya with all of her heart's demands, and wow, this is so painfully high school. Not only is this evidence that Dear Future Husband by Meghan Trainor is having ripple effects in pop music, that's just really not a good thing. It raises a lot of unfortunate implications about guys wanting drama, which as a guy, I can emphatically say is not the case, and that's before we get to the slut shaming, which is just, no. Look, I'm willing to put this down to inexperience on her part. She did write this song, but it's not something I'm inclined to go back to. Sorry. Number 92, Firestone by KYGO featuring Conrad.
When they strike, we feel the love, sparks will fly, they ignite our bones. When they strike, we light up the world, we light up the world.
So here's a fun fact. When I was getting ready to do my list of great songs that hit the Canadian charts and not the US, I actually had a short list. And this song was on that short list, mostly because it's a great example of what this sort of electronic house music can deliver when there's more restraint and control in the production. Take notes, Calvin Harris. Precise, gleaming percussion in the sleigh bells, and a muted yet very prominent popping keyboard melody that is never so obtrusive to clash with the percussion. It's an exercise in balance and elegance, from the production to the abstract lyrics that are still direct enough to make sense to the point where Australian singer Conrad Sewell might be the least impressive part of this song. He just lacks that more commanding presence with the poise you get from, let's say, an Aloe Black or a Fox's, and his plaintive tones that really do sell the song a little bit short for me, but still, it's pretty damn good. I really enjoy this. Check it out. Number 88, Hold My Hand by Jess Glynne. think I like that Jess Glynne debut album a lot more than most people. And even though I'd agree this is probably the weakest of my favorite songs on that album, I still do like it a lot. The clarion piano keys, the gorgeous multi-tracking, that great rollick in the drums for the groove, the potent lower tones Glynne uses for the chorus, those ecstatic horns that eventually come in on the second half of the chorus. If that first half of the chorus paid off the drama a little bit better, hit a little bit harder, this song really could have killed. Although the bridge certainly makes up for all of it. And sure, it's still a pretty simple, effervescent love song. It's probably really overplayed in the UK by now. But when it's this much fun and soaring with pristine energy, who the hell is complaining? I really like this. Number 87. Nothing But Trouble, Instagram Models by Lil Wayne and Charlie Puth. Well, this is a pairing I wasn't expecting, mostly because after a sincere death tribute with Wiz Khalifa and one of the least sexy songs alive with Meghan Trainor, to see Charlie Puth working with Lil Wayne of all people is just weird to me, especially considering that 6 years ago, Charlie Puth was looking for relevance from Lil Wayne and not the other way around. Although in this case, the much bigger influence here is The Weeknd, because Charlie Puth is trying to imitate him and is failing miserably on a pseudo-gospel trap hip-hop with gleaming synths in the chorus that frankly doesn't do nearly enough to flesh out the low end of its backing vocals to be remotely impressive with that gospel swell. That and the subject matter reminds me a lot of Kanye West's Gold Digger, but Charlie Puth's airy falsetto has little to no soul, and Lil Wayne's auto-tuned warble about Instagram models is even less impressive. And that's the thing that irks me most about this song, is a song attempting to add a sense of danger and drama and heartbreak to being seduced by Instagram models who just want to get 10,000 followers. The stakes just feel so small and inconsequential, this song just feels very melodramatic and not in a good way, because if this is the level of fame it takes to spook these guys, look, just because I have over 10,000 subscribers doesn't mean I'm so fake and popping bottles. 10,000? Really not that much in the same way in the internet world. So in other words, I'm not really impressed by this. Number 86, Gonna by Blake Shelton.
Girl, I'm digging on, hitting on you tonight. It ain't a maybe, it's hoping now, wishing I wanna. It's a damn right, hold you tight, baby, I'm gonna.
By this point, you know Blake Shelton has to be getting desperate. This is his fourth single off his not particularly decent Bringing Back the Sunshine. And while Sangria and Lonely Tonight with Ashley Monroe did well, they weren't nearly as big as his work on his previous album, which caused him to dig deep for our fourth single, Gonna. And it's by far one of his weakest from that album, anchored by a painfully thin popping beat, gutless electric guitar, tepid synth, and lyrics that barely rise above an avalanche of clunky bro country cliches. And with the exception of some welcome fiddle and a pretty decent acoustic bridge, and Blake Shelton actually having some charisma, this song would be even more forgettable than it already is. In fact, I think I've already forgotten that this song exists. Next, number 85, Blase by Dolla featuring Future and Rae Sremmurd.
Blase, 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 blase. Hold it up for 100 bottles in the club like blase, blase. Whipping Maserati. Oh, blase, blase, blase. Yeah.
I know what a bunch of you are thinking. Oh, it's Rae Sremmurd and it's Future. That's obviously the reason why he doesn't like it. And that would normally be true. It's a fair assumption, especially considering Future's auto-tuned drone over the chorus that outright contradicts itself. For all of its indifference, all of its blasé, he still wants plenty of things. It's still vapid greed. And believe it or not, I actually didn't hate Sway Lee on the third verse. Just because he's stuck in his lowest range possible and thus remains uninteresting instead of terrible. Hell, even despite how obnoxious Slim Jimmy's verse was, or the instrumentation that takes a fuzzed out atonal synth progression with an oscillating buzzy beat, it only gives a creeping feeling of dread throughout the entire song, or the fact that barely any of these four can rap a consistent flow without the benefit of the beat dropping out or clumsily filling bars of blase, or even that Dolla raps about slinging cocaine when, according to my research, he's never slung a key in his life. No. My biggest issue comes in the first verse, where he compares himself, Dolla compares himself to Nate Dogg. Fuck you. Nate Dogg was one of the greatest vocalists in G-Funk. You're a C-list R&B star whose best accomplishment be playing backup on a hook to Lupe Fiasco, who I think everyone acknowledged did it better without you. So in other words, this song can bite me. Number 66, Right Hand by Drake.
Told me everything about you. That's a bold move. I know that you're out here and there's things you gotta go through. Just know that these streets just don't love you like I do. Yeah.
You know, hip-hop didn't have a good week again when Drake is the one who delivers the most quality about a song that's an obvious euphemism for masturbation. Okay, it really isn't, but even then, this isn't all that good. Most of the problems are gonna lay at the feet of the instrumentation, which might have worked well enough with the eerie, faded synths and that vocal fragment, but the inclusion of that darker, jagged beat with the snap just doesn't complement it very well. And then there's Drake riding on top of it with actually a pretty decent flow and some good bars that connect, hooking up with a girl who ditched her old boyfriend and is now with Drake. But I have to ask, for as much as this girl is at Drake's right hand, does he sound remotely happy about it? I think back to a song like Got Your Back, a middle-to-the-road T.I. song from the late 2000s with Carrie Hilson of all people. It just sounded so much more energetic and fun like this on similar themes. And good for you, Drake, you're not putting her on blast when she gets too drunk at the club. You think that would come as an automatic for a girl you're dating, and that's something you would ever feel the need to brag about as if it's not expected. As a whole, I guess it's okay, but as I said earlier, there's been a real drop-off in quality with Drake's material, and this feels like just another example. And finally, number 43, Same Old Love by Selena Gomez.
I'm so sick of that same old love. Feels like I've blown apart. I'm so sick of that same old love. The kind that breaks your heart. Oh, that same old love. Oh, that same old love.
You know, I was really close to really liking the song until the chorus. I mean, the lo-fi piano with the vintage-inspired backdrop with a bit of fuzz against the snap, Selena Gomez trying to purge out her frustration with an old relationship with vocals that are cracking at the edges, but they aren't bad either. But then that synth triplet comes in over the chorus and it shatters the verisimilitude of the song instantly. Yeah, I can appreciate the whistle that tries to disguise how off-key it is, but the oily, soaked Casio tone of it all just grates on my nerves. That's where we get to the bridge and get this heavily pitch-shifted, choppy rendition of the same line that sounds way creepier than it really should and does nothing for the atmosphere. I don't know, folks. I've been trying to keep an open mind for this upcoming Selena Gomez record after the disaster that was Stars Dance, but this is definitely a step down from Good For You. And all the more signs that the darker and heavier that Selena goes, the less consistent her results are, whether it be EDM or hip-hop, which this one clearly draws for in the latter. And that was our week. And wow, it's been a while since the choices line up this easy. For the best, Hold My Hand by Jess Glynne just runs away with it, with Firestone by KYGO featuring Conrad, Sewell picking up the honorable mention. As for the worst, again, little contest with Rae Sremmurd showing up on both of them. First for dishonorable mention on Come Get Her, and then with Future and Dolla on Blase, which easily gets the worst of the week. You know, I keep saying every week that the pop charts have to get better eventually, but I'm not expecting that it's gonna happen next week because we're probably gonna get an avalanche of Lana Del Rey. But putting that aside, I'm Mark, you're watching Billboard Breakdown on Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you